Okay, today we're talking about some of the misunderstood terminology in our local real estate market, the terms that people don't quite understand because they have experience in different markets. Today we're going to go after them, let you know what they mean, and make sure you understand them. All right, Chris, so we're talking about some of these terms that you and I use every day, all of our realtors at Collins Group use every day, but some people just don't really understand what they mean. Let's talk about the different MLS statuses. Okay. That is to say, where a listing sits in that system. I think there's a few that are pretty understood, right, and a few that are maybe misunderstood. Walk us through those.
Sure. In our MLS systems, there's several statuses, and a lot of them you probably know quite well. But there's something called, everybody knows what sold is, right? Everybody kind of knows what under contract is once you've come to terms on an agreement. You can probably figure out what expired means, what withdrawn means. Those are some of the key statuses in our MLS. But there are things like listing delay. Listing delay is something it's really a coming soon. It's where all the agents know that a property is going to be presented to the market, but it hasn't hit the broad spectrum yet. So you're not going to pick it up on Zillow and things like that. That's called listing delay. And if you've heard of under contract, but we've got something, Chip, that it used to be called contingent, but now we call it active under contract. And basically, active under contract is a status in our MLS when there is a contingency that has not yet been satisfied. Mm-hmm. And so instead of it being presented to the market as under contract, it's presented to the market as active under contract. And when a property is active under contract, especially when there's limited inventory like there is now, buyers still might want to go see it. They might want to put in a backup offer because some of the things that put a property in active under contract status are things like the buyer has never even seen the property. So the offer might be contingent on them coming to view the property and actually liking it. Or maybe it's contingent on them selling another property somewhere else. And that may or may not happen. So active under contract is something that we use locally that folks should know about.
And another category on that is maybe like an architectural review. If they needed to get pool approval or something like that, it might qualify for active under contract. That's a house that could potentially come back on the market, but isn't also fully on the market, thus this middle ground, active under contract. Yes. Another one that we wanted to point out is effective date of a contract of sale. So you have a contract of sale when both the buyer and the seller have fully executed the contract and all the initials and dates have been signed. That's the effective date. Sometimes that takes a few days, just depending on availability of the seller and the buyer. So you might have an offer that's made. It comes to the seller. There's a little bit of back and forth. Finally, that last initial on that last little change gets initialed and dated. It's that date that's the effective date on the contract of sale. And all the dates moving forward, generally speaking, move forward on that. So if you have a financing contingency that lasts for 30 days, it begins on the effective date. Inspection, 14 days, begins on the effective date. Let's talk about clean condition of property at closing. Some people believe that they have to have the property professionally clean. They've got to repaint the walls, all that kind of stuff. But that's not really exactly what the contract contemplates. Tell us what clean condition at closing is supposed to mean.
Basically, it's broom swept condition, right? Broom swept condition, you don't have to go and have a professional come and clean the house out and that sort of thing. Everybody's going to be a little bit different. There's a lot of different personalities out there. I know some folks that don't have to go and scrub the little corners and stuff. They're still going to do that, right? But one of the things, condition at closing, one of the things that's important is included in sale or not included in sale, because what's actually taken from the property, removed from the property, and what's left behind.
So basically, you got to take out everything that's not supposed to convey with the property. That's part of clean or prepared condition. Yeah. But you don't necessarily have to have the house professionally clean. You don't necessarily have to repaint the walls. Although you do sometimes get nice sellers who go in and they just like to fill in every little spackle hole, etc. So that brings out closing. And so one of the interesting things about our marketplace is because we close with closing attorneys and we don't have a round table closing, there is no closing table that exists. It's a little anticlimactic, sometimes a little frustrating, but then also sometimes very convenient because you don't have to be in town to have a closing. You've got the attorneys that are communicating with each other, paralegals that are communicating with each other, documents that are being basically transferred back and forth with a courier. You've got overnights, you've got limited power of attorney. That's kind of how we get closings done. So sometimes we have folks saying, well, when is closing? And our answer is typically, well, that's usually when you're going to coordinate with your side of the transaction with your attorney about when you're going to be signing documents, et cetera. So just a few things to clarify kind of what the nomenclature is in our local real estate market. We certainly hope it's been helpful for you today.